why I'm always looking for things like taking personal expenses and, if possible, making them 100% legitimate business expenses so they become a write-off. But there's another strategy that's gotten a lot better recently that is in the same category of you just need to define it the right way and it can result in big tax savings. Hey everyone, Matthew Searsley of AgoristTaxAdvice.com here to talk about how to save money on taxes. Now, most of my favorite kinds of tax strategies, the ones I come back to over and over, are those where you don't have to actually spend any more money to save on taxes. You just change how you're spending it or how you categorize it. And that's why I'm always looking for things like taking personal expenses and, if possible, making them 100% legitimate business expenses so they become a write-off. But there's another strategy that's gotten a lot better recently that is in the same category of you just need to define it the right way and it can result in big tax savings. I'm here talking today about the R&D tax credit, a way to take expenses you're already deducting and put an additional credit on top. The only extra work is making sure to fill out your tax return the right way. So what is the R&D tax credit and why haven't most people heard of it? Well, R&D stands for research and development, and that phrase throws a lot of people off. Most people think of labs, scientists, big pharma, Silicon Valley, venture funding, and those guys almost always qualify for this, but there's a good chance you do too in your business. The IRS definition is much broader than it sounds. If you're developing or improving a product, a process, a technique, software, or formula, and if there is technical uncertainty involved, and if you're using trial and error or some other method of experimentation, then you probably qualify. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It doesn't have to succeed. You just have to be trying to solve a technical or scientific problem and don't have a clear answer up front. So some things that do count. A distillery testing new ratios and processes to create a shelf-stable canned cocktail. A welder modifying jigs and fixtures to reduce heat distortion in custom metal parts. Or a consultant designing and testing a custom database integration between a legacy system and cloud software. None of these people are in a lab, but they're all solving real-world technical problems through experimentation, and that's R&D. Now, some things that just never qualify. Any sort of market research or customer feedback, any sort of style, packaging, or cosmetic changes, although if the packaging changes are like to make sure something survives shipping, that could qualify. Anything involving content creation or branding, and anything requiring routine or administrative work with no uncertainty. If there's no technical challenge or no experimentation, it's not R&D. Now, the great thing about this is you're already deducting these costs, but you get a tax credit on top of it. And by the way, many states have these tax credits too, if they have a state income tax. So make sure you're checking that out. So that's money off your tax bill because it's a credit. It's not just your taxable income. It's one of the few places in the tax code where you get rewarded twice for the same thing. And don't forget, it's not just the cost of the material you get the credit on, you also get it on the salary of the person working on the thing, including, and I see a lot of people forget this, your own salary if you're self-employed in an S Corp. And like I said, it's gotten even better in the big, beautiful bill because it used to be you took this credit and you had to spread it out over 5 years. Now you get it 100% in the year you earn it. And even better, it's retroactive. So it counts for expenses in 2022, 2023, and 2024. And you can amend those returns now and go back and claim the full credit now. That's real cash from work you already did. I have a personal friend. He's not a client, but he's got a business. He didn't know about R&D credits, so he never claimed them. He's going back and he's amended his 2022 and 2023 returns, and he's getting about $45,000 back. Now, he's in a business doing millions of dollars in revenue a year, That's not necessarily typical or what you should expect, but it's for most people thousands of dollars tax-free cash back. Let's go to some examples and just hypothetically, let's say there's a guy who's a podcaster with an audience in the homesteading and prepper space. He wants to teach people how to grow their own food and be more self-sufficient. And he has really gotten into mushrooms recently. So he starts experimenting. He tests different humidity levels, different grow mediums, sterilization processes. He does different test tracks. Maybe he moves them up and down. Maybe he tries them different places in the house to see if that affects things. He checks, differences in lights. You fail a bunch of times, or maybe you succeed, but you succeed better in other times. You tweak the process. You try again. Now, you're not selling mushrooms, but you are building content about it. You're spending time and money developing a process. You're documenting it. You're sharing results. You're doing trial and error work. So that almost certainly is a qualified R&D activity. Your equipment, your testing, your salary for the time you spent building and experimenting, those expenses don't just get deducted from your business. They count towards a tax credit on top of that deduction. Another random example, I don't know where I'm coming up with this, but let's say it's a different podcaster running a show about off-grid living and homesteading. She raises sheep in some really rough terrain in Tennessee, and she's fighting to find a better system to keep them in and to keep the predators out. So, and she's got this mobile fencing that she's got to move around every time because she doesn't necessarily know where she wants the permanent fencing, but it's rocky, it's hilly, it's hard to put this stuff in. So she starts testing a lot of things, different materials, different fencing, different ways to anchor them into different types of soil, different post spacings, different ways to handle the slope. That's all trial and error. That's all real world problem solving. And then you move on to the electrical side because you want an electric fence. So you're testing different solar chargers, different grounding configurations, different voltage outputs, in different weather conditions, how to set up the fence so it shocks the sheep when it's supposed to, but doesn't short out during the thunderstorms. And that's not plug and play stuff. You're applying agricultural science, electrical testing, and hands-on experimentation to develop a system that works in your conditions. And you're not just doing that for your own animals, although that would be enough, but now you're doing it to teach others the process, the results you've learned. That's R&D. That's deductible already, but again, that would also qualify for the additional tax credits on top of that. So here's the bottom line. A lot of us are probably already doing R&D and don't know it, don't know to ask a CPA or attorney about it, don't know how to document it. But if you're solving technical problems in your business, especially if it's true experimentation, especially if you can show sometimes you succeed and sometimes you fail, you owe it to yourself to find out whether those costs qualify. Because if you do, you're leaving potentially huge tax credits behind. These are not refundable, but if you owe taxes, you can get a refund on this, again, for stuff you've already done back in 2022, 2023, or 2024.